I guess the universe kind of said like, oh, we're doing this now? Awesome, let's go. And like the rug was pulled out from under me.
Life's a short and precious thing, sweet like honey, and it sure can sting, sure can sting.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the She Dreams in Color video series. I am, of course, excited, as always. That's the only word I have for all of these, is excited to introduce you to Iesha Nyree. This is actually the first time we're meeting in person,
Yes.
but not the first time I've followed Iesha's story or been in the energy of her social media presence. So I could not wait to introduce her to this audience so she can share her obstacle and her fascinating occupation.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm also excited.
Excited.
Yeah, exciting is the best word. Like that makes sense.
One of the best parts of this video series is that we're able to amplify occupations that are, I think, unique, or occupations where we don't see different representation, or we don't see people using them as actual lucrative careers.
Mhm.
And so you being a voiceover artist is something a lot of people dream about, but don't think they can actually turn into an occupation.
Yes, and I was one of those people. So I can tell you a little bit about how I got started. I was an actor for years, and my undergraduate degree is actually in theater. I moved to New York, thought I was going to be famous, did not become famous, ended up moving to Charlotte. But no one told me that voiceover was something that people actually got paid to do. I've always loved animation. It just didn't click. So even if you were studying that, they still didn't tell you. And it wasn't until years later, after my life transformed, I was laid off from a bank job, I got divorced, and I was looking to say, what else is out there? What am I going to do? A friend invited me to a workshop with a well-known voiceover talent that was in Charlotte. And I was like, that'll be fun. Like, let me just sit and listen. And it was mind-blowing. Like that session, I was like, I have to figure this. I have to learn this. I need to do this every day for the rest of my life. It was instant. And it has been an amazing journey. I'm so glad it fell into my lap. And I wish more people knew that it was out there. It takes a while to get started like any other career, but I get paid to talk. And it's amazing, and just where my voice can be used and the influence I can have just in speaking and communicating. It's been an amazing journey. So I'm glad I discovered it. I'm glad I could tell people about it.
Yeah, and it's also fascinating because you said you left a corporate job,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
we hear that
All the time.
consistently. Correct. So, where did you begin your career? What was your trajectory originally?
Sure. Once I moved to Charlotte and I gave up acting, I said, I'm going to be a normal person. That is what I told people. Like, I'm just going to be a normal person. And I worked at Bank of America for, I think, 11, 12 years.
Wow.
I was in leadership development. I was in training. I was part of a recruiting program that pulled college students into the bank. I did some really big projects at the bank that I was really proud of. And even though I never felt like I fit, because it was very corporate and I'm obviously very not corporate, but I will say I learned so much. I met so many great people, and I learned about running a business, and I learned about what goes on behind the scenes and organization and getting yourself set up. I would not have learned that if I just stayed straight in acting. But those are the things that help make my business thrive and help me get to the next level. So, and also I ended up getting my master's in organizational effectiveness and leadership, which helped me be on teams and helped me understand how we train other people, which I use every day now in my voiceover business because I do a lot of e-learning. So yeah, I mean, even after I was part of a big, massive layoff. It's a bank, so there's layoffs all the time. Yeah, and I was just looped into a big layoff, and I really did not have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do next. No idea. I thought maybe I'll try to find another bank or consulting, but then I landed in that workshop, and that just made sense. But all the things that I did at the bank really come into play with what I do, even though it's just talking. But I can help them design their training program. I understand the rhythm to speaking in corporate language. I understand what they're trying to go for. If I see something in the e-learning documents, I can say, "Hey, do you want to rephrase this? Do you want to rewrite this? Like, what are we doing here?" It's funny because at the bank, I would always get pulled into special projects. Like there was a television training program. They're like, "Well, you know how to be on camera. Why don't you do this?" And I was like, "Sure, okay." So I always tell people, whatever you do, it's gonna find a way to come out if you let it. And even if you try to hide it, your skills and your gifts find a way to show themselves. Sometimes we don't pay attention to it. Sometimes we ignore it because we don't think we should, but when you are open and you just accept that you have these gifts and you're like really looking for it, the opportunities they come and they'll attract to you. So that's what happened to me. I was a little stubborn about it at first.
How does it feel? Like, what is the reception from people when they hear, corporate America, Bank of America, leadership development, and now I do cartoons.
Right. I do funny voices for a living.
I respect the industry because I have to hire people who do voiceover work, and I have to screen through people who do it. I understand it's not just talking. First of all, it is not just talking.
No, it's not.
The amount of spit that accumulates. And then you hear it on the microphone. Listen.
Yeah. It's like, real.
Don't breathe. Act more interested. Act less interested. And people are like, I don't understand. I'm like,
read
well,
it, but don't
not
read
talent.
it.
Yeah.
Read it, but don't let me know that you're reading it.
Right. It is such a complicated career. It really, really is. It's exhausting too. And there's a huge skill set to it that you're adding multiple levels of skill set I hadn't even considered. But what is the reception that people give you and they're like, oh,
it's that face that you made. It's exact that face. So I tell people, and it depends on who I'm talking to. A lot of times I joke about this. My children are little sports people. I don't know how that happened because I am not a sports person, but I will meet. They're very nice parents and they're all in sweet suburban areas. And they say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a voiceover artist." They're like, "Oh, well, that's nice." So we'll get the people that are trying to be pleasant, but they don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
So you record videos in your closet.
Yeah. And basically, like, "So where do you work?" I'm like, "In my pajamas at my house with my alpaca slippers because I love alpacas." Yeah. And they just think I'm the weirdest thing. The other thing that I get, I've always wanted to get into that. I get that phrase a million times. Say, "Oh, I've always wanted to get into it. Oh, I've always wanted to get into it."
Yeah.
And I look at them like, "Really?
Yeah.
Did you really always want to get into it?"
It's because they haven't ever had one job doing it.
Right.
It is not an easy job. You really have to be called to do it.
Everyone says, everyone says I have a great voice. I've always wanted to get into that. And I just find that funny that I majored in theater and I was working as an actor and I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they got.
I think it's the online courses that they're pitching on Instagram. You can be a voiceover actress. You can be a voiceover artist. Make millions of dollars. And they do like make millions of dollars.
I will confess to our studio audience, I do not make millions of dollars. I make a good living. I like what I do. I can go on cool trip. I can get my nails done. Like I do the good things. I am not a millionaire. Yet.
That's right.
I'm not saying it's not possible.
Everything is manifested.
Right. But
you did have to make a financial shift to go from what you were doing, even though you were laid off, you could have made a decision to go to another bank.
Yeah.
So even making that financial decision, you took a leap. A lot of people, I want to do it, but don't do it. What made you do that fear-based faith walk?
And that took longer than I'm proud of. But at the same time, I'm big on mindset work and manifestation. So I have forgiven don't beat yourself up over how long it takes the journey, whether it's a short time or a long time. But yeah, that first, that was scary. And I was also newly divorced. So now a single mom responsible for a lot more finances. And there were a lot of weird, odd jobs in between to try to make that work. And I remember just I kept saying, well, maybe I'll just do it part time. Maybe I'll just do it on the side. I'll just do it on the side. I'll just do it on the side. And there just came a point that I wanted more every job. And I kept dreaming of like, wouldn't it be great if I got a really big gig? Wouldn't it be great if I got called into this? And I had all these dreams and visions of what I wanted. And slowly but surely just realizing if I don't start committing to it more, I'm not going to get there. So it wasn't right away because it's scary. Making change is scary. Whether it is in financial, your professional life, your personal life, making that change, making that leap is terrifying. And you don't have to. No one will make you. But there will come a point, if it's really meant for you, that the more you keep going, it feels more uncomfortable to stay in your old life. And that's when you know you have to shift. Every time I got a gig, every time I got a bigger gig than the last one, I would invest something in my business. I worked with a company called Celia Siegel Management, and she does marketing specifically for VoiceOver. And that was a game changer because suddenly all of my branding, my marketing, my materials looked fresh, looked professional, looked clean. So I tell people, get your marketing in order. Hire Jennifer. I was like,
so a lot of entrepreneurs have the journey where they have to make the decision of what they are going to invest in next. You can't invest in all of it. There's so many silos in a business. But what is the next most important thing, or what is the thing that will set you apart? And in your case, equipment has to be really valuable.
Yeah.
Having the equipment.
Yeah.
So you have to decide marketing or equipment, and then there might be a year or 2 or 4 or 5 months where you're paying for braces and not investing in your business, and you're just working to make ends meet at home, and then you get to a place where you can then invest back in your business. It's a journey.
Yeah, and you'll meet someone who, for whatever reason, they had more financial support that they could invest in a lot more things up front.
Faster.
Yeah, and they try to make people feel guilty and bad about it, and they say, well, that's the only way to do it, and you need to have a full studio, and you need to have a Neumann mic, and you need to have all these studio bricks. A Neumann mic are like couple $1,000 microphones. Like you need all these things, and you're just not going to be a professional until you get that. I fell into that same trap too, and that also kept me small longer because I just kept saying, well, I can't afford that right now. And then finally I said, look, everyone does it in a different way. My path is not going to be the same as someone else's. And if I have to do it piecemeal, then that's what I'm going to do. I started off recording in my little townhouse, in my closet. A lot of people start there. I had a tiny little USB mic plugged into my laptop, which was an old PC. Wasn't even a good laptop, but that's how I started. That's how I booked my first gig. And I didn't book the next one for a while, but I just kept building and building and building. The next big thing for my career was actually making the decision to go full time. That was another game changer because I was losing work, having to turn down gigs because I had to be at my day job because I was still on the side because it was too scary to go full time. And I just had to make the decision and say, whatever happens, happens. We might be eating ramen. I did for a little bit. There were some hard times up front, and having to call for help a lot. But we didn't starve, and we got through it. I'm not going to say it was comfortable. Yeah. It was not. But we got through it, and that taught me that no matter what happens in this business, I can handle it.
It also feeds into this imposter syndrome when you are starting out and someone with more experience or someone making more money, from the outside, you think, tells you that's not how I got here. That's not how it's done. Or you're not going to get here if you're doing it this way. Yeah. Because then you start to feel as if you don't belong somewhere, but you're also finding successes. But then you're like, but I'm not like them.
I'm not as successful as they are.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as they are.
Or I didn't do it the way they did it.
Yes. And I, especially in the beginning when I was going to more networking events, because just from my experience working at the bank, I knew that would be helpful to connect with other people in this community. And the first few, it was terrifying because I would have to explain, I'm brand new and I haven't been doing this for multiple years. And they're like, oh, well, what's your microphone like? Well, that's a big thing. Like, what microphone are you using? What's your studio like? It's like, it's my closet with my clothes. And I went to, I remember a networking event that was invitation only, and I applied, and I didn't think I would get to go, but they looked at my history, and I'd been doing voiceover for like a good 4 or 5 years at that point.
Yeah.
And it was funny because even they were just like, you need to stop telling people that you're new at this. Because that's what I was doing. I was like, well, I'm brand new and I just started in voiceover. They're like, how long have you been doing this?
Or even saying you're new is also a way of minimizing your true value in the industry.
Yes.
And that's another thing that seems pretty common is underselling what we have to offer.
I will call myself out. Everyone has something that they can call out. And I have made peace calling myself out on this. I undersell myself all the time. All the time. I'm constantly minimizing myself. I am constantly doing this. Now, I'm also the first one to get on my friends and coworkers for doing that. I'm like, no, you are brilliant. You are amazing. Look at how you never dull your shot. Like, my whole media presence is about live your best life and look at how amazing you are. I don't know unamazing people, but as soon as someone turns the spotlight on me, it's like, oh, well, a quick tip that I tell everyone. Super easy. Get into the habit if someone compliments you, don't quantify it. Just get into the habit of saying, thank you. Period. Using my big fancy nails, like period. Just stop it. And just let it sit. I'm notorious like, oh, well, this whole thing. I'm like, I didn't mean to do it. I would just say thank you. And after a few months, it's like, I did do that. Yeah, okay, and people saw it. Okay, I'm gonna take my flowers. Thank you very much.
Now, with that tip, what do you do in the situations where people are aghast that you just said thank you and that was it? And you didn't dismiss the compliment they just gave you, because that is also some of the response that you get when you are practicing accepting compliments and accepting the flowers. Is people are like, who do you think you are for accepting the compliment I just gave you?
Oh,
gross.
It's like, how dare you? Yeah. How dare you not fawn over me, respect you? Yeah, and that was a different journey too. I just got to the point of, I have tried it every person's way. I was a really good kid. I was one of those really A students. I was a great employee. Like, I tried to be perfect and tried to hit all the to-dos. And it was still hard. And everything still came crashing down. Actually, that's probably when it happened, when I got laid off and when this journey started. That's when I started saying, you know what? It's that being perfect, it doesn't protect you. It doesn't protect you at all. So that's when I kind of toughened up and said, I'm just going to do my own thing, and sorry for you if you don't like it, because life has already thrown everything at me. Knock on wood, I don't want it to throw anything else crazy. I always get nervous. I'm like, don't test me.
But you're right in that thought process of what I've heard from other women's experiences is kind of that people pleaser mentality.
Yes.
That perfect. If I am what they want me to be, then things will go smoothly.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't.
It never does.
And not to mention, you're also really miserable.
I was so miserable oh gosh, I was so miserable. I didn't realize it when I was in it. And I think that is a thing that, good counseling and therapy helps with that too. But you don't realize how miserable you are in it until you get to the other side of it and looking back and saying, oh wow, I didn't even recognize who that person was.
We hear so many stories about what we should do, what we should be, what we should attain, what that looks like.
Yeah.
And it comes a lot from the movies we watch, videos, the people in our lives. Success is defined a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important women such as yourself tell other women and younger girls, this is success. This is what success looks like: alpaca slippers.
Alpaca slippers are successful. I'm
Yes.
like, success is what you define it as. And success for me is, do I wake up looking forward to the day? On most days. Like, you can have your bummer of a day, but for the most part, I am thriving. I'm growing. I'm doing something that I enjoy doing. I'm not dreading my days. I get to spend time with my kids. Like, but these are all my success markers.
The important thing people take away is that people pleasing keeps you busy. It
Mm-hmm.
keeps you feeling gratified in a way of accomplishment for
Yeah.
other people's goals for you. And that's why you don't know it's miserable when you're in it, because you're so busy. What do you want now? What's next?
It's
What
like
should I do?
juggling
Right.
or plate spinning, and I call it spiraling. Like, and I catch myself if I'm, oh my gosh, I got to do this. I got to do this. Got to do that. I was like, wait, I'm spiraling. I feel it. Like, and I turn into like a little Tasmanian devil hurricane. Once I stopped doing that, it got really fun to be able to be like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm gonna do it my way, and if you don't like it, that sounds like a you problem. And so then when I got the thank yous, and I would get people looking at me like, well, aren't you gonna finish that? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna let it sit there, and then I walk away.
How does that show up in relationships, professionally and personally, when you take that stand? Because we want to inspire other people in
Mhm.
that struggle to see thriving and glowing is the result. When you get through the mud, thriving and glowing is the end result, and
Yes,
it's worth it.
a lotus cannot bloom without the mud. It goes in the boundaries. Besides just saying thank you and just like letting compliments, the other big thing, boundaries, that you set, not that other people try to confine you to. So being able to say, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm comfortable with, this is what I will and cannot or will not do. Boundaries. Maintaining them is a really good sign. If someone does not respect your boundaries, either professionally or personally, that is a huge sign that is not someone who needs to have access to you, either professionally or personally. I've had clients that and that goes into how much would you like to pay me for this rate? Like, what's my going rate? When do you need assignments? When do you respect my vacation time, even though I worked for myself? These are boundaries that I've set. And if I get a client that wants to constantly push those boundaries, then they probably are not the right client for me, and that's okay. There's another. Mm-hmm. I can let people, projects, what have you go, that do not respect my boundaries. Now, we can compromise and negotiate and have a conversation, but if I've set a boundary, then that's it. It's probably not as negotiable, or else it wouldn't be a boundary.
So easy to read
Yeah.
in a book,
Yeah.
which I did over the summer. The Nedra Tawwab book.
Ooh.
I read that Boundaries book. She's a therapist here in Charlotte. This
Mhm.
national bestseller. It's an amazing book. Reading it at the pool. I love this. Applying it in life. Wow. Wait.
Oh, it's hard.
That's not easy.
No, people will get big mad at someone setting their boundaries. How I had a therapist tell me is the people that get the maddest are people that needed you to stay in that to stay in a certain way for their benefit and comfort. So then you have to kind of look at, if someone doesn't like that boundary, why? So how are you benefiting them that they don't like it? And the other thing is, if people who don't have respectful boundaries of their own, they get really upset to find someone else, because that's something that they don't know how to do or aren't ready to do. And so then it turns into like, well, how dare you? Like, who do you think you are? And so that stirs up something. So it's going to be one of those two things. Anyone who doesn't respect your boundaries.
I do think it's interesting that once you get through the first professional one, the first personal one, the first family one, once you kind of get through the first experience of, this is my boundary, and then standing up to it,
yeah,
because you can set it, but then you have to stick up to it. Once you kind of purge that experience, you're like, wait, Okay.
Like, this
And
is
then the
fun.
next one is easier and you recognize it faster. And then you start attracting people who have boundaries, respect your boundaries, and then you look around one day, 8 or 9 months later, and you think, "Oh my gosh, I have all these great people in my life. I respect them, they respect
Yeah.
me, and we are just working in this great synchronicity."
Things take time. And you have to respect the time and go into it knowing that things will take time. But then, what the fun thing is, once you start actually jumping into setting boundaries, your mindset work, your where you're going, once you start doing that, it's kind of like undoing a knot. And it takes a while to undo the knot, but eventually you're going to hit that one piece that everything unravels. Everything starts rushing to you and getting attracted to you. So it's like, oh, wow. Then you get a little annoyed, like, I could have had this the whole time. Now that I'm here, I don't want to be like those same people that are like, well, you need to do this and this and this. I also have to constantly remind myself, be patient for parts of myself that I'm still developing, but also people that are just starting it. So I can be an example and say, hey, I didn't get here immediately, but once I started committing to it, it came really quickly. Once I went full time, I did it before the pandemic, and it was slow and I was nerve wracking, and I'm like, I'm not making money, and having to set those boundaries and tell people no. And then the pandemic happened, and then things just started flying really fast.
But also, nothing in those journeys was wasted. You may have regretted it not being faster, but you can respect and appreciate the experience and the lessons that came in that process.
Definitely.
And even in corporate America, it's beautiful that your corporate America experience so magically fits into your now career.
Yeah. I did not expect that, because I'm like, I'm never going to do this ever again. I hate corporate America. But all of my experiences, and this is for everything in life, all of your life experiences from childhood to today are yours. Even if it's trauma, even if it's hard, but it's yours. And so you can do with it what you so choose at any given point. No one can take it away from you. So if you have something in your background that you're not proud of, or that was hard, or a struggle, you don't have to let it take over. You can use it and be like, you know what? Yes, that is a thing that happened in my past, and I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it to my advantage to benefit my today. So you never have to really be ashamed of anything. And actually, you don't even have to necessarily regret anything. Someday, and in the beginning, I used to be like, oh, if only I did this. I think about, what if I had stayed in New York, and what if I hadn't gotten married? What if I hadn't done this? But then I wouldn't have my kids, and then I wouldn't be in Charlotte. The weather is much better in Charlotte than it is in New York. But if I had changed anything, I wouldn't be here. So all of those past experiences created this version of me. And I'm a big fan of this version of me. So I don't know what version would have existed. She might have been okay too, but I like this one.
When people talk about, as you're talking about mindset, I'm reflecting on what you've already shared in your journey and some of the places that may have been even more difficult than others. When people talk about being laid off or abruptly losing a job, whether they like the job or not, the deep sadness and the loss that has to be honored in the experience, whether you like the job or not. And then you mentioned a divorce. It sounded like it came real soon after or close after.
It did.
A lot of life change that completely changed the definition of Iesha.
Very much so. It's okay to grieve things, even if you know they're not good for you, even if you know you don't want to be there. That's part of the grieving. And I think even as entrepreneurs and people are going after their dreams, there is a big amount of grieving work, because you have to start looking at yourself and accepting the new form of you. You might have imagined it and dreamed of it, but there's a gap between that version and the current version that you have to reconcile, that this life, this version of you, has to end in order to have that one. They can't exist in the same sphere.
I appreciate you describing the feeling of the loss of a marriage that way, because in my experience with divorce, even though I didn't want to be married anymore,
Mhm.
I didn't want to be in that dynamic.
Yeah.
I never pictured myself doing anything else in that part of my life.
My childhood, I didn't see a lot of good examples of marriage, good, bad, or otherwise. I just didn't see a lot of examples of long-lasting marriage. So that was a big goal for me. I'm like, I'm going to show them. So then when that
Wow.
ended, it's like, oh, what what do I do? I was supposed to be the poster child. I was supposed to do it right. I was supposed to be perfect. I was supposed
Yeah.
to show them how it's done. But looking back, I didn't want to be in that dynamic. I didn't want that. It wasn't healthy. I didn't want my kids to see that. Now that I had them, I'm like, no.
Mhm.
And I hate to put that on them because they're separate people, but for me, that was a good gateway to start to self-care for myself.
Mhm.
And I did have a therapist tell me that, like, caring for yourself, self-love, self-respect makes you a better loving partner, parent, whatever way you're connecting with other people, because you have to love yourself first, because you have to love people from your saucer, not your cup. So you have to fill yourself up first to be able to respect other people's boundaries and love them and give them what they
Mhm.
need. As scary as it was to be able to say, I would rather be alone, because I would rather do that than be with another bad partnership. That was a big step for me too, because then I had to kind of look at myself and be like, am I okay with that? And do I like myself enough to be alone? That was a huge journey for me, to be really honest, to say I didn't at the time. Like, I'm afraid to be
Mhm.
by myself.
Well, a people pleaser needs a person to please.
Yeah. I need someone to tell me what to
And
do.
for some reason,
Where's my checklist?
What will make you happy? That will make
That'll
me
maybe.
happy.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we have to learn through therapy, through books,
Mhm.
through conversations, through relationships that we're the first person to please. We're
Yeah.
the first person to please. And when that is being done, when you know what you're looking for, when you know what you need, when you know what your body needs, what fulfills you as a career, then it's a lot easier to fill that cup up first.
And even though my kids, they are teenagers now, so they have passed the stage of mommy's job being, oh my gosh, so cool. They get to see their mother fulfilling her dream. Like, they get to see it, so they know what that looks like. I did not get that. My mom, and that was something I wanted for her. She never did really get out there. And my mother, who has passed, she was an amazing artisan. So she worked in ceramics and stained glass and pottery. Like, she could make anything. And we were constantly trying to encourage her to sell the stuff, or just to get out there, throw up an Etsy store or something. But with her background and her not doing her personal therapy work, like her mindset, all of
It
that
was a
stuff.
different time
Yeah,
too.
all of that mental health stuff she
Yeah.
did not do. And also being surrounded by a bunch of other people who did not believe or do that, she never really got a chance to do that to the very end. And I wanted that so much for her. And also, to be honest and a little selfish about it, for me too, so I could see it.
Mhm.
And that was part of the people pleasing, constantly trying to find people that I could copy and learn from, and then they could take advantage, and then the people pleasing phase start. So this time, my children get the opportunity to see their mother, a woman, doing what she loves to do, and I want them to do it too. I was like, I took the jump. I went for it. I want you to go for it too. Whatever it is, do it. Do it. I did it. Do it. But change is scary. So until you get to that point, I'm like, look, you cannot keep going
Mm.
like this anymore. That's when you start saying, like, okay, maybe I'll change. Okay, I guess I'll change.
Well, Iesha, thank you. You will be one pillar in someone's journey
Yay!
as they watch and they're feeling that.
You feel it, like
They're feeling the
watching this.
Tasmanian devil.
Yep, they're feeling it. They're just like, she's right though. I think I might be there. Do it. Do it. So if they watch this and have that urge, I'm like, that's the spark. Do it. Just keep following the spark.
That's right.
Just keep following
Set
it.
the whole woods on fire.
Yeah.
Burn it all down.
Yeah, burn it all down. Maybe not right away. I mean, maybe right away. That's what happened to me. Or at least bare minimum, if you feel a spark, follow it. Just to the next logical step, and the next, just keep going. The forest burns down eventually, but a new one grows. That's better.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
With every episode of the She Dreams in Color video series, we like to have a t-shirt that you can buy to continue to amplify the message the woman shared in her interview. And Iesha talked a lot about her obstacle of being a people pleaser and her challenge of setting boundaries in her professional and personal life. So we couldn't think of a better shirt than this one from Ladera McKinnon. It says, "I'm a work in progress." Ladera actually did the work that you see in all of our episodes. She is a fine and abstract artist. She's here in Charlotte, but her work is across the country, and she really always wants her viewer to feel freedom when they see her work. You can buy this t-shirt or others from different lines on her website.
It's our turn. Won't let it burn. It's our turn.